Have you ever seen a leader make a perfectly reasonable decision and then somehow fail to make it stick? The decision gets announced, people nod, the meeting ends. And then, a week or two later, the same conversation is back again. Nothing has fully landed, nothing has properly moved, and everyone is left carrying that slightly tired feeling of, I thought we'd already dealt with this. I think this is one of the most frustrating parts of leadership, because it's not always that the leaders are unclear, and it's not always that people are unwilling. Quite often, the real problem is that the leader has not fully stepped into the act of choosing, holding the line under pushback, and following the decision all the way through until it becomes real. And that is what this fourth dimension is all about. In the last video, we looked at systems awareness, the ability to see the wider patterns, forces, incentives, and structures shaping what happens in teams and organizations. Now we move into something more exposed, because once I can see clearly, the next question is this: can I choose clearly, act decisively, and stay steady when resistance appears? This is the heart of LD4, will and delivery. And this is where leadership stops being conceptual and becomes very visible. Hello, I'm Pietro Pazzi. I spent 30 years as an executive in global leadership roles. I saw brilliant leaders burn out, lose themselves, or hit invisible ceilings. I realized what was missing wasn't more strategy, tactics, or actions. It was depth work on their inner operating system. So I returned to my training in Psychosynthesis, and now I help leaders integrate their inner world with their leadership impact. The purpose for LD4 is this: to make clear choices, hold a line under pushback, and close execution loops so decisions land and outcomes stick, without force or burnout. I really like the balance in that definition, because it is not saying leadership here is about pushing harder. It is not saying it is about becoming more controlling, more dominant, or more relentless. It is saying something much more precise. Make clear choices, hold a line, close execution loops. That means leadership here is not just about deciding in principle, it is about making sure the decision actually takes shape in the world. And that sounds simple, but it isn't, because the difficult part in leadership is often not the decision itself. It's what comes afterwards. Someone disagrees, a stakeholder pushes back, a team hesitates, other priorities compete for attention. The energy drops in the messy middle. And in that moment, a lot of leaders wobble. They reopen things, they over-explain, they soften the line, and they swing the other way and become forceful. LD4 is what helps leaders stay clear without becoming rigid, and determined without becoming exhausting. In this model, LD4 is shaped mainly by delivery, which makes sense. This is the primary capability here. Delivery is about bravery, proactivity, resilience, and wise resource allocation while retaining agility. It is what helps a leader turn intention into outcomes rather than leaving things sitting at the level of discussion. And that matters because some leaders are very good at talking about priorities. Few are good at protecting those priorities in real life. Delivery is the capability that says, we have chosen, we are moving, we are following through, and we are not relying on last-minute heroics to make this work. But LD4 does not sit on delivery alone. There are also other overlaps with grounding. That matters because under resistance, a leader needs centeredness and congruence. They need to stay firm without becoming harsh, reactive, or brittle. That distinction is so important because some leaders lose their center the moment they are challenged. their tone tightens, their listening narrows, their energy becomes sharp, or they go the other way and become hesitant, vague, and avoidant. Grounding is what allows the leader to hold their line without losing themselves. Then there's the overlap with sense-making. This is what keeps speed from turning into poor judgment. Sense-making helps a leader think clearly about trade-offs, consequences, when it's maybe time to be agile, and long-view implications. It helps them avoid mistaking urgency with wisdom because mature will is not impulsive. It can move quickly, yes, but it can also think and can weigh what matters. It can see what is being chosen and what is being left behind, and that is what gives this dimension maturity. A leader strong in LD4 usually shows a few very recognizable behaviors. First, they name trade-offs explicitly and own the decision. They do not hide behind vague consensus language. They do not pretend every decision is painless. They do not speak as if the decision somehow made itself. They say clearly, this is the choice we made. These are the trade-offs. This is why we are doing it. Second, they close the loop. That means they move through the full sequence, making decisions, communicating, implementing, reviewing, not just decide and hope. Third, they address difficult issues directly and promptly. They do not let important decisions drift into the strange organizational fog where everyone knows something is unresolved, but nobody quite names it. The endless "we'll circle back" language when what is really needed is a clear conversation. Fourth, they allocate resources wisely, and I think this is one of the more overlooked parts of leadership, although you would think it isn't, because decisions only become real when time, attention, energy, and budget start moving behind it. If those things do not change, then often the decision has not really landed. Fifth, they maintain momentum through the messy middle without burning the system. That phrase matters because lots of leaders can create movement by generating pressure, but mature delivery is not about flooding the system with urgency until everyone is exhausted. It is about sustaining momentum in a way the organization can actually carry. 6, they stay steady when resisted, firm and grounded rather than forceful and avoidant. And finally, they create reliable accountability without constant chasing. That means work moves because ownership is real, not because the leader keeps hovering over everyone to make sure something is happening. When will and delivery is weak, a few patterns tend to show up. The first is half decisions or relitigation. The issue never fully settles. The decision gets revisited every time discomfort appears. Pushback becomes a reason to reopen rather than a reality to work through. The second is overconsultation as avoidance. Now, consultation can be wise, it can be necessary, but sometimes it becomes a way of delaying choice. The leader keeps gathering views, asking for more input, widening the conversation, not because more clarity is needed, but because commitment still feels risky. Third, execution depends on zero effort or the leader's constant presence. This is such a common thread. The work only moves because the leader keeps pushing, chasing, rescuing, and stepping back in. At first, that can look like dedication. Over time, it becomes fragility. And then there's a very important failure pattern in the overlaps. If grounding is weak, delivery becomes forceful. If sense making is weak, delivery becomes erratic. That is such a useful distinction. Some leaders push too hard and create fear. Some move too fast and create confusion. Some begin strongly and then lose coherence halfway through. In each case, the problem is not just poor execution, it is underdeveloped leadership maturity in this dimension. So, will and delivery is leadership capacity to choose clearly, stay steady under pushback, carry decisions through until they become real. It helps a leader move from intention to execution, from hesitation to ownership, from repeated discussion to meaningful traction. Without it, leadership drifts. With it, leadership begins to hold. In the next video, we'll move to LD5, mobilizing support, how leaders scale through others, delegate, real authority, ask for help early, and stop becoming the bottleneck. If this perspective speaks to you and you want to develop your leadership from the inside out, explore my depth leadership coaching at pietropazzi.com. You can also book a 30-minute complimentary exploratory chat with me. You'll find both links in the description. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.